Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's figure out what has happened so far, what we can expect moving forward and all that good stuff. So as usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, it does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. The link is below, getting my intraday thoughts on Tesla and whatnot as it's moving throughout the day. So if you're interested on that, link is below, $3 a month. But jumping right into it, Tesla closing the day down, unfortunately, about 1.6%. which of course compared to the market is a slight underperformance, but that is going to be putting us at pretty much 259 almost dollars per share, just shy of that, which obviously is a break down below 260. So we'll discuss this, we'll talk about what this all means and moving forward and if this is good or bad. So starting things off pretty simply here, right? Looking at the daily, there's a few things to note here, right? We talked about how, we did reach the top of this overall, blue line, this kind of resistance area, right? And this is technically an area to potentially resist, but we're also in this ascending channel, or I guess ascending, I guess you can call it a channel, honestly, right over here, right? If you make another line like this, right? You can kind of make an argument that we're in this kind of, rough channel that looks something like this, right? If we were to make a second line there. That's number one. Number two is, we did come down below 260, right? So that's number one. We did come down below 260. We did not break below the blue line, and we're still kind of bouncing in between. CPI did come in today slightly hotter than expected by, I believe, literally just 0.1%, I believe it was. Nothing too crazy, but nonetheless, still hotter. Now, Tesla, right? So we came down, we actually went below the blue line, right? A little bit, just, temporarily. And then of course we ended up recouping it back up pretty quickly, which was a good sign to see. I'm trying to move this, but it's like not being cooperative here, something like this, right? We did actually pretty much go right back above it. Thankfully, we bounced right where we needed to. It was very close. It was a close call, but we did bounce on important levels, right? We, of course, bounced off of the 21 email, which is right here. You can see beautiful bounce so far, which is a good sign for the bulls, right? The fact that we held that is great. Don't forget, this is also 255-ish, is about, is rather a good support area as well from previous areas, right? You can see here, right? A lot of, support and resistance from the passive trading on the stock, right? So that's naturally just an area now that is a support. And as if that wasn't enough, is of course, there's also a high volume area, as you can see well over here, right? This general area, you can see how much higher the volume profile here is around this kind of general level we're trading in right now. And especially once we drop into below like 257 roughly, right? 255, as low as 252, this kind of chunk of area that we bounced in is the highest volume profile area that we have as well. So, overall, what I'm saying is it's a nice area of support. And that's exactly what I told my members right over here, right? We're still entering a good area of support, but if we get a daily closure below this candle, this is what it looked like, right? That'll be, of course, pretty bad news. And then, unfortunately for the bears, we didn't, but thankfully for the bulls, we didn't as well. So that's a good sign. Let me move this quickly, right? So that's a good sign. Now, what does it mean moving forward? So there's a few things, right? We also want to look at a couple other things that's not Tesla related, but it does affect Tesla. So let's go over that super quickly just to get that sort of out of the way. We talked about QQQ. I believe I said this to you guys the other day, how it's essentially a large bull flag on the weekly, right? You can see right here, right? Beautiful little bull flag that's setting up, and QQQ overall is looking pretty darn good, but it is getting rejected at the top of this channel, which is also what I talked to my members about right over here, finding rejection at the top. And I talked about it right over here, how, it's approaching a potential large resistance point. And that's exactly what happened, 373 roughly. And of course, it went down 3 points from there, right at the top of this overall bull flag. It's still looking good, and it's still technically a bull flag. It's just, of course, finding a resistance now at the top of this downward channel, if you will, which of course is the actual bull flag itself. That's number one. Number two, this is something that you want to look at a little bit more overall, is going to be the VIX, right? The VIX, if it ever starts closing candles above 20 or higher, that is going to be very, very crucial to pay attention to, because if it does, that's going to be a breakout. That's going to be bearish for the market, and the market most likely will see a tumble, including Tesla, of course, right? This is why I brought up QQQ, because if QQQ gets rejected here, it can, of course, bring Tesla down as well. But on the flip side, if QQQ breaks out of this bull flag to the north side, which in this case will be somewhere around 374 or higher, really, that'll be good for Tesla, and that'll help carry Tesla up as well, right? It's like, a rising tide lifts all boats sort of concept, right? You know what I mean? So that's kind of the idea, and that's why I'm bringing that up. But moving back to Tesla, there's a few things to talk about, like I said. So we didn't break below the blue line, either blue line really. We got rejected at both of them technically, if you will. Got rejected from the bullish angle up here, we got rejected from the bearish angle down here, and now we're still sandwiching in between. Now, tomorrow needs to be a green day, because if we don't get a green day tomorrow, we're gonna start falling out of this little channel, right? Or this little, rising channel that we're in, right? This little congestion period right here. So that's gonna be important to pay attention to, because if we start falling out of this, that's gonna mean that there is seemingly one more room or one more rather move to the downside that is still going to happen, right? And like I said this yesterday, if that were to happen, I believe that'll bring us down to the bottom of this overall channel on the daily or weekly, whichever you want to look at it, which again will bring us down to about $240 per share, assuming we come down to retest it one more time. But with that being said, we also don't want to be falling below $240 per share, because that is, number one, just a really good support level, which we did bounce at over here not too long ago. Let me zoom in, right? That'll right over here. Right, this was the general 240 level. We just bounced off of, a very nice bounce too, actually. But so that's a good area. It's just an important area of support. But in this case, because this is of course a rising channel that we are in, or ascending channel, I gotta sneeze 1 second, or not. Yeah. Excuse me. Right, because this is of course an ascending channel, naturally this kind of barrier of, or I guess this important level that we can't break below is going to keep ascending with us, right? And in this case, if we are going to be coming back down to retest this overall red line down here, which is in the ascending channel, that's going to be putting us at about $240 per share. And in this case, if we fall below that, on top of it being a good support area that's important to hold, that's going to be starting to show like we're falling out of this overall ascending channel, and that's going to be very bearish, and that is going to potentially mean that the next couple of months will be very, very bearish. Just food for thought. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? But of course, it's important to understand. And I think I think what might happen is this. I really wouldn't be surprised if earnings has us actually drop back down to about 240. Makes a massive bear trap over here, and looking like we're about to break down. People get scared, they panic sell, whatever the case may be, right? They're just panicking. And then it sets up a massive bear trap, get a beautiful bounce, and then I think from there we're going to start making some very nice runs for the rest of the remainder of the year. That is kind of what I'm personally projecting right now. I'm kind of guessing in my head right now that kind of just makes sense. Like I can see the market makers doing something like that. I can see the market doing something like that, right? It just makes sense to me. I don't know why, but it just does. Again, doesn't mean it will. That's just complete guess, of course, but wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of how it plays out, honestly. But with that being said, until we of course break out of one of these blue lines, nothing is really truly confirmed. So just take that for what it's worth. Now, on the flip side, like I said, if we break above this blue line, we're going to be retesting this overall red trend line, which again is also descending, which means that the level to break it becomes less and less the longer it takes to retest it one more time. In this case, if we were to do it relatively soon, it would be somewhere around the mid to slightly high 270s to break through it. And if we do, that's going to be very bullish. That's going to make us just overall a very bullish scenario, right? We're going to be breaking out of a massive downtrend that started at all-time highs, and that'll be setting us up for a great rest of the year and potentially even 2024, which is going to be fantastic to see. And I think that it has a higher probability of happening than the bearish side of falling out from this channel to the downside. Obviously, I'm not ridiculously confident of the bullish side, but I do think it's slightly more favorable personally, in my opinion. Now, the next thing we should look at very quickly is, of course, going to be the squeeze indicator. We talked about this yesterday, how we'll be paying attention to this indicator and how it could potentially be showcasing that a squeeze is on its way. Now, I also want to make something clear. Squeeze doesn't always mean squeeze to the upside. It could be to the downside. I just use the word squeeze as a way to describe the fact that there's a lot of pressure building and it's getting very tight and it's about to explode. That's to me what a squeeze means. It doesn't have to be to the upside. It could very well be to the downside. Just want to make that very clear. But we did get officially a second red circle, and you can see the bars are now starting to get into like the blue bars and the orange bars over here, right? They're starting to go into a neutral state, which is very common to happen once these squeezes start to happen until this shows us a direction. So for instance, if we start seeing consecutive red circles, let's say for the next 2 more days or even 3 more days, maybe like up until earnings or something like that, which is on Wednesday of next week, right? And let's say we get again 3 more circles like this, 3 more red circles, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. And let's say these bars start to turn into these blue bars as we continue doing these red circles, something like this, for instance, right? Kind of like this scenario that played out here, or even over here on the left, right? See how it started the red circles and then it kind of went from the orange bars to the blue bars while it's still maintaining that, right? This was a large one, but just as a rough example, right? If we start seeing something like that, that's going to, to me, start signaling that the squeeze is actually going to be to the upside. So we'll see. We're going to keep looking at this. We'll keep updating and seeing how this looks. I'll be updating my members, of course, intraday as it's happening. So they'll get it, of course, sooner. But that's kind of what they, that's what they're paying for, really. But, I will be kind of updating all of this information for them as well. So if you're interested, the link is below. But if you're not, that's all Gucci as well. The final thing we'll look at is, of course, the options flow, right? The options flow looking pretty muted, honestly, overall. Definitely more bullish than bearish, but nothing too completely crazy. The biggest thing to really note here is the fact that we have 1.1 million in premiums, 260 calls expiring this Friday. Most options are expiring this Friday, so very short term. So I'm not really putting too much weight into this because for all we know, the profits have already started to be taken. So again, very, very short term options, but it's looking like, assuming this is still being held, It looks like there's going to be a bounce tomorrow, which is exactly what Tesla needs. We need to bounce tomorrow. It's very important in order not to fall out of this overall blue line right here. But that's kind of what I am seeing right now, ladies and gentlemen. So let me know what you think down below. The most important things to pay attention to right now are the two blue lines, the 21 EMA, and yeah, that's what I'm looking at. And of course the squeeze, but that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm being patient about as well. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching, and as usual, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.